Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Series 1, Episode 4 of the Premier League Review. This is a podcast style series where I'll be discussing the most recent Premier League game week, as well as giving my predictions for the upcoming game week. You can also follow my Instagram, which is theinstinct.03, and my Twitch, where I do stream for 6pm FIFA content usually, which is the Instinct003. All links will be in the description, and any feedback on any of these podcasts are appreciated. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Instinct, and today I welcome you back to another episode of the Premier League Review. This is the first midweek episode of the podcast in its existence. This is episode 4. There's not much to talk about, really, I don't think, this week, but I'm going to try and get through it as quickly and as best as I can to give you guys the best content. But we will start. I know the title and thumbnail is about Kevin De Bruyne being the best midfielder in the world. Honestly, Kevin De Bruyne, ridiculous player. I'm going to get into him later in the video. But the main game I want to talk about, the first game, I want to talk about is Wolves against Crystal Palace. That game ended up finishing 2-0 to Wolves. There was a goal at the very start for a Joachim Andersen own goal, and a goal at the very end for a Ruben Neves penalty, which saw Wolves go level on points with the opponents they played, Crystal Palace, in 13th, which means both Wolves and the Eagles are now 8 points clear of the drop zone. Into the next game, Villa 1, Fulham 0. A goal for Tyrone Mings and a 1-0 win at the time saw Villa into 5th, but they are now 6th after other results, level on points with Spurs. Fulham go into 10th, now 4 points away from 8th place Brighton. Leeds 1, Leicester 1, an 80th minute equaliser for Jamie Vardy and some shithousing right at the end in front of the Leeds fans for the Foxes striker. Saw the points shared at Ellen Road as Leicester dropped back into the drop zone, 1 point and 2 places behind Leeds, who are 16th. Forest 3, Brighton 1, a first goal for Danilo. First goal for Danilo, which saw Forest into 17th, 1 point above Leicester. It was a great win for Nottingham Forest. It was also a first goal for Argentinian attacking midfielder Facundo Bonotti. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Brighton are 5 points behind Villa in 6th, and they occupy the last European place, I believe, which is 8th, to get your Conference League. Chelsea 0, Brentford 2, just before going to where both teams are looking in the table. According to Sky Sports News, Frank Lampard is expected to stay as Chelsea's caretaker boss until the end of this season, as per the agreement when he signed initially on April 6th. According to the same source, there is also meant to be news on Maurizio Pochettino, with his announcement as the new head coach expected within the next week, according to SSN. But back into football, Brentford go 2 points behind Brighton in the race for the European places. Chelsea are now only 10 points away from the relegation zone in 11th, which is remarkable. And as I said way back when on my podcast, it is still mathematically possible for Chelsea to go down. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen anymore. But it's very possible for them to go further down the table, we'll say that much. West Ham 1, Liverpool 2. Liverpool do enough to go into 7th, 1 point behind the teams in front of them with a game in hand. So there is still a possibility of Liverpool going up to 5th at maximum, because I don't see them going into the top 4 at this late stage. With West Ham, David Moyes has been questioned over a post-match interview regarding, I believe, VAR due to Jared Bowen's disallowed goal. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but it was something to do with his post-match interview. West Ham are 15th, 5 points above the drop. Now, the big game, the massive game at the top of the table. Manchester City 4, Arsenal 1. Kevin De Bruyne is a genuinely ridiculous, world-class, up above, upper level, upper class. When he's on form and when he's actually honest and wants to play football, he is just different gravy. Nobody can stop him. Him and Haaland up top. Him and Haaland in the team for Man City, automatic goals in my opinion. Honestly, speechless with Manchester City and their performances at the minute. It now sees Manchester City 2 points behind Arsenal, but Manchester City have 2 games in hand. With about 5 games to go, Manchester City now have the biggest percentage in terms of them going on to win the title than Arsenal. I don't want to say Arsenal are bottom of the league because stranger things have happened in the Premier League, as I've mentioned before on this podcast. So who knows what can happen, but it is looking up shit creek at the minute for Arsenal. Everton 1, Newcastle 4. This is Everton's heaviest home league defeat to Newcastle since 1993. It was a great assist as well from Alexander Isak. I'm sure you've probably seen this a lot of times on Sky Sports 92 Bible or on Newcastle's official social media pages, because this was a ridiculous assist. He literally ran all the way up the line. I've seen people comparing it to Messi at Barcelona. He literally ran all the way up the wing, cut back in, did a little bit of skill, passed it across the box, easy finish. But, it was a great assist for the Swedish striker. He's looking really impressive as of the last, I'd say, 10 games. He's looked really impressive. Newcastle go up to 3rd now, 8 points safe in the top 4 after other results, whilst Everton stay 19th in the relegation zone, 2 points away from safety. This is another big one. Another 6 pointer at the bottom of the league. Southampton 0, Bournemouth 1. Marcus Tavernier, it's now 5 goals and 4 assists in his debut season after only joining last summer for £12 million with Middlesbrough. Southampton remain the basement boys at the bottom of the league, 5 points from safety after Che Adams had a late goal ruled out by VAR. For Bournemouth, they are now 7 points clear of the drop zone. Great job by Gary O'Neill and his team. Now the final game, Spurs 2, Manchester United 2. Spurs were 2-0 down by the 55th minute, but managed to bring it back 2-2 by full time in Roy Mason's first game back in charge of Spurs after Christian Stellini's departure. He is now the caretaker manager until the end of the season. Spurs say 5th, level on points, but ahead on goal difference, ahead of the Villains. United are in 4th, 6 points clear of Spurs and Villa. The last thing I want to mention in terms of last week's game week results, Sheffield United are going to be coming back up to the Premier League after a 2-0 win against West Bromwich Albion. They are in a bit of financial trouble though, apparently. I'm reading somewhere. Apparently they can't afford to pay all the players their bonuses for getting promoted, and it's now taken on their owner to splash £9 million to clear the debts. And also AC Milan are interested in NDA, the attacking midfielder who's looked really impressive. He's apparently of interest from the Rossoneri. But yeah, it's not looking good for Sheffield United at the minute, and they've only just been promoted. Even though this is a midweek episode, I do have some transfer news to talk to you guys about. Watford's João Pedro, the Brazilian striker, will be joining Brighton. It's a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. It is on a long-term deal and he will sign that in the summer. Also, Chelsea have identified Romeo Lavia of Southampton as a target to sign under Maurizio Pochettino. He only joined Southampton last summer for £15 million from Manchester City's academy. Chelsea are also reportedly set to ask Belgium striker Romelu Lukaku to re-sign for the club once again from Inter Milan. Honestly, I don't know how many times Romelu Lukaku is going to change clubs between Chelsea and Inter Milan. It's the same sort of scenario with Wilfried Zaha and Manchester United, except he didn't do it near as many times as what Lukaku is going to be probably doing. But anyway, into the upcoming game week, because I don't want to keep this podcast long, because obviously it is only a midweek podcast. We've only got actually 3 games in the Premier League on Saturday. This is probably due to the fact that most teams in the Championship are going to be having their final games of the season, and in League 1 and 2 as well, and potentially even further down in the Football League pyramid. But what we do have is Crystal Palace versus West Ham. It is the 12:30 kickoff on BT Sport. I'm going to say for that game, I'm going to go with 2-1 to Crystal Palace. I can see them getting another win and returning, because obviously they did lose 2-0 to Wolves, and that was, I believe, the first defeat under Roy Hodgson's reign back in charge of the club, so they'll be looking to return to winning ways. Brentford versus Nottingham Forest. I'm going to go with 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. I know Brentford have just come off the back of a 2-0 win at the Bridge, but I really do think Nottingham Forest will have a real confidence booster after beating Brighton, a team in, the league standings matter, better than Brentford. So I do see Nottingham Forest getting another win there to push themselves further away from the relegation zone. So yeah, 2-0 to the Forest. And then Brighton v Wolves at 3 o'clock as well. There's no 5:30 kickoff in the Premier League because the 5:30 kickoff is the one I'm actually going to be working, which is West Brom v Norwich on Sky Sports. West Brom's final game at the Hawthorns. But back to the Premier League. Brighton versus Wolves. I'm going to say, I'm going to go with 2-2. I think that's going to be a really good game there. And here's the bulk of the games on Sunday. There is one game on Monday, but I'll get into that in a second. But the bulk of the games come on Sunday. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 2 o'clock kickoffs. We've got Bournemouth v Leeds. I'm going to go with 0-0. Fulham versus Man City. I'm going to go with 1-0 to Man City. Man United v Villa. I'm going to go with 1-1. And then Newcastle Southampton. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Newcastle. Liverpool Tottenham is the 4:30 kickoff. In that game, I'm going to go with Liverpool 3-2. I can see a lot of goals there as well, but I think Liverpool will edge it 3-2 once again to increase the pressure on Spurs. And then on Monday night, we've got a big game at the bottom of the table. Leicester City versus Everton, another massive relegation 6-pointer at this stage of the season. I'm going to go with Leicester and Everton. I'm going to go with 1-1. I just don't think there'll be much to separate it. But whoever wins that, if anybody wins that, it's going to be a big deciding matter. We have got games again in midweek due to the games in hand due to the FA Cup. I'm not too sure whether I'm going to be covering this because there is only, by what I can see, 4 games, which is Arsenal versus Chelsea, Liverpool, Fulham, Man City, West Ham, and Brighton United. If I do decide to cover it, I'll let you guys know in the next podcast, which will be coming out next Tuesday. But thank you, everybody, for listening. This was just a midweek podcast, an updated podcast to keep you guys in the loop if you haven't been already. I hope you guys have enjoyed. As I said, all links to my Instagram and Twitch will be down below for you guys to access. Please do leave a like and also subscribe if you are new, and I will catch you guys probably on Tuesday. Thank you everyone for listening. Take care and have a good weekend watching the footy.